I can't believe these most recent changes to Preservation Walker. They will make you absolutely still the best healer in the game.
Okay, so it was your turn to get nerfed now, huh?
Yeah, well, technically a nerf, but it's a bug fix, or 2 bug fixes. One where you had double dipping with versatility in some spells, and another one I'm not quite familiar with, but apparently some other healing percentage increase got some additional benefits than it should, so I think it got bumped down like 5 to 8% or something.
Which sounds like a massive nerf, but given how far ahead Preservation was, I guess it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it matters whatsoever. Since healing is a bit different, you can see healers getting nerfed by like 6% or 10% quite, not often, but it's not... If a DPS gets nerfed that much, there's it's been hell, right?
I mean, if you nerf the number 1 DPS by that much, they're gonna be like bottom tier, right? On single target at least. Like it's gonna be such a
Yeah.
such a big. I mean, because like healing is in some sense like here healing is like a zero sum game, right? You can't like if someone else heals someone, that takes away from what you can heal, which isn't usually the case, or at least in single target, that's never the case in the raid for DPS. But on AoE, it kind of is, right? Because you're killing. That's why Fury was so good, because in the sort of zero sum game of killing ads with almost no HP, Fury could kill them very fast, and therefore they sort of took damage away from other people. But on most like single target encounters or whatever, which is like the bulk of, I guess, the damage that goes out in the raid, then it doesn't really work like that. So yeah, so in that sense, I guess it's kind of a big difference between DPS and healing.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I often compare healing to AoE damage, because it is sort of the same thing, where healing is mainly tuned in raid around healing 20 people, and single target healing might be super skewed in how well you can do it, right? But healing is more sort of what healing pattern you have and the way you heal. So you have to look at sort of overhealing as well as effective healing, and I think it very easily becomes a mess, and there's often really big discrepancies of which does it better, especially in 20 man.
Yeah, but so
So
do you think this will change the meta in any way, or
no,
nothing? Okay.
I would be surprised if double press was still not exactly as good, because it's just way too little of a difference. My best bet is that they just fix the bugs so they can have an easier time tuning it in the future. I would bet there would come in more nerfs or more buffs to the other healers. But once you have like double dipping secondaries and healing amplifiers not working as they should, I would assume it's gonna be rough to nerf from that point, you know? They should wanna make the spec work as intended before touching the dials.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
So it's not even remotely comparable to the to the Fury nerfs, where the damage was kind of bait to begin with, and then you got nerfed because of the bait. Press healing is not bait whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean we got 2 nerfs and we're gonna get 1 more apparently, and I'm a bit unclear why. Because if you sort for a single target in Mythic, we're the dead last, and if you sort for all damage, we're second to last now on Mythic logs. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. Seems a bit crazy, but I guess when the later bosses with maybe more AoE comes in more to logs, maybe we'll sort of change the rankings again.
Yeah.
But yeah, not gonna drag on too much about that, I guess. But yeah, maybe the biggest thing this week that a lot of people did, and I guess the Chinese guilds, or at least some of the Chinese guilds, figured this out already last week. And used it to get higher eye level than any of the Western guilds, which was the sort of trash farming that you could do, which became like super meta this week. And I don't know, you guys didn't do it that much, or how did that play out for you?
Yes, as far as I know, we haven't been able to do it a lot. I don't think we realized how broken it was early enough, and we just didn't end up doing it. Because as far as I know, the Chinese guilds, so to explain the BOE farm, or I guess it's a BOP farm in the trash of the raid, on the first Mythic reset, you could do it in any part of the raid, right?
Yes.
Like before the first boss.
Yes.
And then that's what the Chinese guilds did without lockout. So it's presumed that they did splits and just farmed trash and got 2 to 3 mythic item level pieces on each character. Went into mythic and was like several, like 1 to 2 item levels higher. But they nerfed it, and I think that brought a lot of awareness to the power of it, to make it so that you need to kill Rashanan before the trash drops these items. So what a lot of guilds did was you clear to Rashanan and then you start BOE farming, and you need to clear all the trash that's remaining, and then you go out for 30 minutes, reset the instance or something, and then you can do it again.
Slight correction there. You don't have to clear to Rashanan. I think it's enough that you kill the first boss, because we already on Wednesday this week, when we were re-clear, or maybe I guess on Thursday, because on Wednesday we just did a bunch of splits in heroic and normal. But as soon as we stepped into Mythic this week, we did clear all the trash between the first and second boss, and then we got like 2 BOEs as well. So it can drop before, but I think the reason a lot of people did that was because or like why a lot of people did it after Rashanan was that that's how far most people got before they got to their progress point. And the thing is that there's no need to have your full raid and do this during your raid hours. You can have just a few people online in your guild that would have otherwise done like an M+ dungeon or something. They can just go in and do this in your save. So what my guild did was that I think it started on Friday this week, where some people were just like, should we do this? And then they were just like, yeah, let's do it. And then some people joined, and there were like 8-9 people or something doing it for a few hours. And then people got home from work, and then I joined in as well. And we played for a couple more hours, and it just kept farming trash. And then again on Saturday as well. So I think everywhere from like 5 to 15, 16 people at a time just doing this trash farm, where you would basically, clear all the trash that was available at that point in the raid. And then you would do like a slightly exploity thing, I guess. But I guess if Blizzard thought that it was enough of an exploit to ban, they would have probably banned by now. But basically you forcibly reset the raid by like doing some weird shenanigans of everyone going out of the raid, everyone logging out, giving leader to some other non-saved character or some weird shit. I don't honestly even really know exactly how it worked. I was never the person to do it, if that makes sense. I don't know exactly what they did, but I just know that everyone ran out, and I was told, okay, log out, and then everyone logged back in, after like 30 seconds, whatever when they did the thing. So yeah, it was kind of a weird way to sort of forcibly get the trash to respawn. And then doing each of those runs, like a run didn't take that long, like definitely less than like 10 minutes if you were like 15 people. And I would say like on average, we probably got like 0.4, 0.5 drops per run on average. I mean, and obviously we had some runs where we didn't get any for like 7 runs in a row, and then sometimes we got like 3 in one run, etc. But obviously this was super powerful because you get myth track gear, and it also drops 3 out of 6 on the track as well. So they're 629 eye level, which is pretty huge actually.
Yeah.
And so so I think something would be interesting to compare is the eye level that we had then when we actually fought ovi'nax on Sunday or Monday this week. Since that would have basically been my guild only doing 2 sets of splits each week as opposed to the 3 that you guys did. But we instead, or not instead necessarily, but we did this trash farm and you guys didn't. So we're interesting to compare how that sort of played out in terms of item level of the raid.
Yeah, we didn't raid on Monday, so on Sunday, the 29th, we had 623.0. So exactly 623 as average item level.
Right, and we had 623.7. So yeah, so I guess even with you guys having 1 extra split per week, we have 0.7 higher, and that would probably be attributed to having a lot of these BOEs, because I think we got like almost 30 or 25 plus of those, and then of course some went to waste and some had to go to alts or whatever. People didn't need the items that dropped, but at least like say 15 to 20 items or something we probably made use of actually on mains, which is pretty, that's a pretty large number of mythic items to just randomly get,
Well, it is kind of, well, first of all, there's probably some misconceptions going around about how the BOE farm worked, because I was under the impression you need to kill Rashanan, not that it mattered. But I did not know you could forcibly reset the raid, which makes it a lot more attractive, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We are fully under the impression that you have to wait 30 minutes, and that's how we've done it. Or the people that have done some runs have done it.
Oh god, that I mean, let me say it this way: it was extremely boring to do it, even with a fast reset. But I can only imagine how boring it would have been if you had to wait 30 minutes between each run.
Yeah, and then you feasibly cannot do 60 runs in a weekend.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah.
But other than that, I think the Mythic track drops are even better than the item level, especially this early on, because assuming that you can get Mythic track items on people that do not have Mythic track items, or have just gotten one from the vault, you're also setting yourself up for longevity, because you can spend crests directly into a piece that you will not replace, right? You can commit to playing a head or a boot or whatever that drops. Because me as a healer, I'm not getting showered in Mythic loot, believe it or not. So I currently have one Mythic track item, which is from my vault. And I've had to distribute the rest of the crests into items I for sure will replace, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this will even live on. I'm not sure if we will start farming, but we realized this or started discussing doing it on Sunday morning, and that was too late to get any meaningful BOEs, especially when we're waiting for 30 minutes.
Yeah. If you didn't know that part, then it probably was probably was a bit harder.
Yeah, but then it becomes a lot more sketchy, right? If you're doing something sus to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it's obviously the farming trash part, that's not an exploit. Like, you're just farming trash and raid. But the resetting part, yeah, that's definitely not the way it's supposed to work. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not. I don't know. It's not the most egregious thing I've ever seen, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they did something about
Yeah, it's
it.
very high impact for sure.
Yeah.
Like, assuming you don't have infinite time, and it takes 10 minutes per run, you will get at least 2 point something more runs in the same time, right?
Yeah, you get a lot more runs in for sure. It might have even taken less than 10 minutes. I don't know. Depends how many people you were. So yeah, that's yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see if they issue any bans for that or not. I would guess not, because I assume that they would have already happened then, because I'm pretty sure that this is what the Chinese guilds did.
Okay.
And that was part of the race to world first. I mean, the fact that we, like, as a rank 30, whatever guild we are at the current moment in time, I mean, that doesn't. I don't know. And I think most guilds in the top 50 or top 100 or whatever, I think most guilds did this. Or at least pretty much all guilds ahead of us did it, I think, when we looked at what they had been doing.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, it would be a lot of people that would probably be taken out by this if they did anything. But yeah, it will be interesting to see if they do anything.
Okay, let's hope for my guild that they do, yeah?
Yeah, you're the only.
Issue a casual 7-day ban, seems reasonable.
Exactly. So you'll
To
be like
every guild that did one reset incorrectly.
Yeah,
Or...
so you'll be the best guild in the world that didn't do this, and then you'll catch up to everyone because you get an extra week. That would be, yeah, that could happen actually. It's not impossible.
I feel like this would be very reasonable. Because if we had known, we would not have done this. There's no way.
Surely not. Surely not. Yeah.
Way too sus.
Way too. Yeah. But yeah, to move away maybe from the actual, just the farming itself, but think more about, like, obviously there's no way that Blizzard would want this to be the case next time around, right? Like, there's no way that they want this.
No, like, it poses a very weird gearing requirement or gearing strategy, where assuming you have decent M plus gear from the week before and you've done your weeklies and whatnot, since this happened in Mythic Raid Reset 2, where people found out about it, like, once you've gotten your crests, you would be so much better off just farming raid trash and entering an M plus.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would ever want you to just farm raid trash over and over again, since they've done, even for non-raiding guilds, they've changed that the drops is now BOP, so you don't get the BOE you can sell. I'm assuming it's because of some pay-to-win reason, right? this doesn't become a pay to win reason, but it becomes like an infinitely, or not infinitely, but a really long duration grind for people that are able to gain at least 5+ people to farm the raid for an entire day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's just also like it's not interesting content, right? It's not hard, it's not fun. Like it's just yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, they probably don't want it, and it probably would be good if they do something. But I don't know. What do you think they can do in general to like stop this, or what would you like to see them do?
That's a good question. I mean, there are several things you can do. I guess you could either not make the trash respawn, which would be great for several reasons. Like no matter what, the trash doesn't respawn.
Yeah.
You could cap the amount of BOEs that drop in a specific lockout. That could also mean that the drops would be less random and more guaranteed. Let's say you always got 2 BOP raid trash drops per reset. I don't think that'd be so dumb to include, right? Because then you'd almost you could assume you're getting some drops, right? And you'd clear the trash once, and you'd never have to do it again. But then you would clear all the trash, or up until you get the hard capped amount.
Yeah.
But I haven't really thought about it. Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that Blizzard had a solution to this. I don't remember if it was in Shadowlands or in Dragonflight, or maybe even both. But there used to be, at some point in the past few years, they introduced a change where they said that, okay, BOEs in the raid are only going to drop from these special, like, lieutenant-style mobs in the raid. And there's only, I don't know, some certain number of them. And those have a weekly lockout, just like a boss does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
But
makes
for
sense.
some reason they took that away. So I don't know. Maybe they should just go back to that.
Well, I mean, they could just make a weekly lockout for all the. I'm assuming every mob has a unique ID, right? It would feel
Yeah.
really bad if the mobs respawned and you'd kill them and then they couldn't drop any BOEs and you'd have to do it each time you raid that week. But I feel like there are several solutions. I don't know why Blizzard are so insistent on trash. Like no one likes trash and they're just forcing you to do trash. Why couldn't it just at least die once each reset and be done with?
Yeah, I don't know. I could see that definitely that it would be dead for the week or whatever, or for the reset. So I don't know. I can understand trash being there in some in some fashion, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see this being a big problem to solve. They can probably find 5 solutions and just pick one, right? Like
yeah,
it's not complicated at all.
yeah. Basically, I just hope I don't have to farm trash next year, and if I don't, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be behind in gear because I haven't sat in the raid farming trash for 10 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
that doesn't feel great either because it's a lose-lose no matter what I do.
Yeah, I had a great timing actually. My fiance was out of town the entire weekend, so I mean, I was just home and gonna play anyway. So I mean, the timing couldn't have been better for this trash farm to come out, basically.
I mean, or worse, since then you sort of had to do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Right.
So, Broodtwister then, how did your progress go?
So it was pretty good. I think if I remember correctly, we had the boss on like 21% on the previous week. Like before this reset, if I don't misremember.
Okay.
Or maybe that was on Thursday. I can't remember, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, the fight was it was okay. I mean, I still have the same complaint that I had last week, if you remember, with the swirlies on the ground being extremely annoying to see.
Yeah.
And I saw a banger tweet from Squishy, like the guy from Wowhead, tweeting about like the circles and saying that visual clarity should never be the difficulty of an encounter.
Yeah.
And I vibed so hard with that tweet. I felt like that's so annoying. But yeah, it felt pretty solid. We ended up killing it on Sunday this week. And yeah, I mean, I feel generally okay with the boss. Pretty unhappy with the visual clarity thing, and especially unhappy with the visual clarity thing after having watched you guys play and watch your mage POV, and see him just fucking AFKing, and there's like one swirly spawning near him every 5 to 10 seconds or something, and then in melee you're like every second you're scouting around for invisible swirlies. So yeah. Other than that,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty good.
I think I died to I think I've died to one swirly when I stood in two swirlies. And then I ate one by choice, so to say, like I didn't have much of an option. But then the other one was like under an egg. And I was standing in between eggs because I don't know why. But other than that, I haven't really noticed the swirl visual clarity thing yet. I don't doubt it exists, but it is a very different game out in ranged,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah,
What pull
for sure.
count did you have, roughly?
We had. I thought this might come up, so I just pulled it up on the side here, and 108 pulls we had on Broodtwister.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys didn't quite manage to kill it. You had a bit of an unfortunate sort of moving raid situation, and then also not killing it long
Yeah.
time after having a low pull. But how many pulls did you guys end up doing?
We ended up at almost 150, I think. And we got the boss to 3% on pull 117 or something. So I feel like I think we had a similar curve up until you killed the boss within 10 pulls or so.
Yeah.
Yours I'm quite sure your guild's curve is better. But then we raided 7 hours on Sunday because we couldn't raid on Monday. And I would assume that had some sort of effect when we're not used to raiding for, well, 8 hours plus an hour dinner break.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really have much to say on that. We should have killed the boss. Maybe we would have killed the boss in some slight different circumstance, but we got it to 3% a couple of times or 3 times, and it didn't die. And now with the nerfs, it's just gonna fall over, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
I feel
sure.
like the guilds that are still progressing the fight, or let's say the top 100 guilds, are in a weird, unique situation where if you have the general movement of the fight down, you've played all the phases. Even if you only gotten the boss to 20%, 25, 30, doesn't matter. If you'd play all the pie slices and at least 1 to 2 egg sets in the last phase, the boss is just gonna fall.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
it's so nerfed.
and especially for a guild like you that have gone all the way to the end, and now they just monstrously nerfed the boss.
Yeah.
Because
But I've been thinking a lot about it, about the health nerf, because I feel like it's generally good that they nerf the boss. It shouldn't be this difficult. Like we shouldn't pull the 5th boss 150 times and not kill it, even on a bad night, you know?
Yeah.
But the health reduction is so significant that even a first-time raiding guild will not play the entire last phase out. Or I would assume they're not, right? They're gonna have like 2, 3 more item levels, and it's just gonna die, basically. And the only thing I guess we would have wanted from a slightly higher guild is that if the nerf to the health was bigger than the value of a Vantus rune, it would guarantee that it would be killable quite conveniently, right?
Yeah.
But what is Vantus rune now? It's like 3% or something damage?
I haven't actually looked, but it always used to be 3%, so I'm assuming it's still 3% verse. That would make sense, at least.
So, yeah. So what do you think about the health nerf? Because it seemed to me like it was a big, big nerf, even if you want to up one healer. And yeah, I don't know. It seemed like 15% was a lot.
Yeah, I don't really understand the nerf, because they nerfed the boss's health by 15%, but they didn't nerf the health of any of the ads. They nerfed some of the damage, but you were already 3 healing the boss without too much trouble. I don't think healing was ever like a problem, at least for us. And obviously we have 3 healers already, which is 1 less than you're used to. So I feel like most of the wipes now would come from, well, I guess in some sense they fixed the egg thing at least, because you have 8 seconds now to do the eggs. I don't remember how long you had before, but obviously less than 8. But like most of the other things that you would wipe to, like something going wrong with the ads and needing to blood decays and all of these things, I mean, that's still there, right? So I don't know if it really... I don't know how
But I
much it
think
helps, I guess is my point.
I think let's go over the changes one by one so we
Sure,
both
yeah.
know them, because I don't know them all by heart. But health reduced by 15% on Mythic difficulty.
Yep.
That seems to me like they want you to 4-heal and it not being harder and then just making the boss a bit easier. Which makes sense. I just feel like 15 is high. I would assume 10 is more reasonable. But then the next change is experimental dosage. Duration is increased to 8 seconds. Doesn't say what it was. But I don't think it was a doubling of the time, right? Must have gone from like 5 or something to 8.
Yeah,
I
probably
would
5 to
assume.
8 or 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Poison burst cast time increased to 4 seconds on mythic difficulty. I feel like this is a great change. I don't know how it affects the amped version of the worms, because poison burst is the cast that you're kicking, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I mean, I'm fine with it and everything, but I feel like I don't feel like that nerf was necessary. But I'm fine with it as well. I don't know what the old cast time was, 2 seconds maybe or something, or
Yeah.
they should put this in the notes. It's hard to.
Your guess is better than mine, but we had a lot of problem with the kicks, and so this would probably be like swirly increase and poison burst change would have been the best changes for us purely mechanically, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like experimental dosage or the egg breaking is really bait, because that's the thing people seem to fixate on the fight, because it's the obvious difficult mechanic, right?
Right. And it's
But in
like
my
the one
mind,
super hard wipe. Like if you miss an egg, you will wipe. There's
yeah.
no coming back from it, right?
But I mean, we both progressed the fight. I'm guessing you guys had a lot of difficulty with the swirlies and especially Millie dying, right?
On the first time we were there, we had a lot of difficulty. I would say I was probably one of the worst offenders of dying to it as well. But I don't know if that was, if you look at all of our wipes, it kept happening for sure, like during the entirety of the progress. But it wasn't. It was way more egregious the first time we were there.
But what do you wipe to then? The pools you don't wipe to the egg?
I think it was kind of spread. I mean, I think sometimes it was someone, sometimes it was the egg, sometimes it was a kick, sometimes it was just people dying from the swirlies, and then we had quite a lot of times people just died from being meleeed by the big spider.
Yeah.
That happened quite a bit for us, which was a bit awkward. I even died to that on our kill. Actually, I got meleeed by the spider and died, but we could rest, so it was fine. But yeah, so I guess that, and then sometimes I guess if something went wrong with the CC rotation on the, I mean, I don't think we had any specific thing that was like the main culprit. I think it was kind of mixed of what happened actually.
I feel like for us it was a mix, as you've said. I think we struggled more with kicks than you guys seem to have. Maybe more with swirlies, but I'm not sure. But the thing to me that doesn't make sense is that, yes, the eggs hard wipe you, and the eggs are annoying because of, yeah. But every pull, like I don't think we played a single pull where we haven't died to the big spider, the swirlies, the kick, or something else, right? Like one of the more simple mechanics of the fight, not the egg mechanic. But I feel like a lot of guilds are probably focusing so much on getting the eggs right every time that you're sort of baiting yourself into not progressing or improving upon the easier part of the fight that you can plausibly improve upon. But a guy getting a new egg set on a mark he hasn't gotten, or getting stuck somewhere, doesn't have leap or whatever, I don't feel like that's gonna improve much. You're gonna get better at the eggs, but I don't think you can do much to get better at the eggs. People just need to find their marker, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like we focused a lot on the eggs and not as much on the other mechanics. And it's not like focusing much on the eggs is not a bad thing or super bad thing, but not focusing on all the other deaths I feel like was problematic. Because that's what's really causing you to not kill the boss. If you're not getting through the pull without landing every single kick, you're most likely not going to have a kill. You can maybe afford one missed kick if the raid is healthy, but much more than that, and you don't have the leeway anymore, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean it's an encounter with a lot of things that can kill you, kind of. None of them are super difficult, I guess, but you kind of need them all to click or them all to work. So yeah,
Yeah.
focusing on one or putting all your eggs in one basket, not meant as a pun, but that's maybe not the best idea because you really need to be sort of well-rounded in the sense of you need to be able to tackle all the mechanics, otherwise you're just gonna wipe because people die or some of the one-shots go off effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not at all sure if I have a scuff take or not, because usually the mechanic that wipes the raid is the one you need to focus on, right? Because you don't want to wipe the raid.
Yeah.
But I really got on the feeling that that focusing on the eggs too much can be a bit bait, because there's so much other stuff during the fight that will wipe you indirectly, and I feel like they're easier to control than missing an egg, because anyone could miss any set of egg. I'm guessing the later in the fight, the more likely it is, right? So once you get through the egg, it would be nice if the easier parts of the fights were really solved.
Yeah. I mean that makes sense. I
But
mean,
maybe that's yeah, just one way to think about it, I guess.
yeah. I mean, you're never gonna have like 100% success rate on any mechanic, I guess, but you can, you can try to get closer, for sure. And I mean,
But yeah, I was reading the list, but I forgot about the nerfs. Uh, let's check what we did. Health reduction, experimental dosage increase, poison burst cost time increased. All of these are fine. Health is a bit too much, I think. You're not liking, or you're not seeing the use for the kick increase.
I mean, I see the use, but I feel like I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think it needs to be that long. I think 4 seconds is a long time. I don't think it needs to be that long.
Okay. And then we have volatile concoction, periodic damage reduced by 30%. Is that the small tick that puts an absorb on you?
I'm thinking that's the thing. Yeah. I think that's the debuff with absorb. Yeah, probably. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter, I don't think. It seems strange to nerf the healing requirement while sort of making you able to play more healers.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the nerf. It feels like they just took everything in the fight and nerfed every mechanic in some way, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
The blood parasites are no longer immune to crowd control while casting Infest. I would guess this is a great change for most skills. We didn't struggle much with blood parasites, but we've also set up so you have 2 knocks on every one and you have a mass grip for every one. And when you're not in those conditions, I'm guessing Infest becomes a bigger problem, right?
Yeah, but
So
you still can't just have them spawn and randomly AoE them. You're still gonna need to have like a stun rotation and everything, right? So I don't really know, because usually what would happen is that you would grip them together and they would die in the CC rotation, right? After you grip into, or what's it called? You knock into grip, and then you have like a stun rotation, right? And then they would be dead.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure what this really does. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But from a range perspective, I think it's good, because sometimes when a grip's missed or something, you can get some parasites running out and they start casting the infest, and you could break it somehow by like a knock or them being out of range or something. But it was at least perceived by me as sort of buggy, where sometimes the infest hit you and sometimes you could break it. And
Okay.
I'm guessing that's an effect of, yeah, maybe range would make them not cast it, but you couldn't CC them during the cast and stop it. But it wasn't presented clearly, I feel like.
Okay, but then that's maybe a good change then, because I don't feel like it. I don't think that takes away anything from the fight anyway, really.
Yeah, I think you're more aware of the parasites as a melee player than a ranged, because you're just assuming that they're getting gripped in, and then sometimes a random blood parasite just runs at you, you know?
Yeah.
Like actually out 20 yards, 30 yards in ranged. Okay, but fixed an issue where blood parasites would sometimes melee players. I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah, I think we had this. I think someone died to that, and we are like, "What the fuck? They're not supposed to do that." And it's happened once or twice for us where someone died from this. So I think that was just a bug. So that makes sense that they fixed it.
Okay. And then some movement speed effect by the blood parasites. the mutation. Doesn't seem like that will do anything.
Yeah, I didn't even know that they sped up after a while. But again, this is like if something like this happens, like this is so you're already either it's like you have like a few stragglers like from some of the first sets or something that are just far behind and you're just sort of cleaving them before the next set comes, or you've already wiped because you haven't killed them and they're running all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels like a pretty inconsequential change, but again, this at least doesn't take away much or if anything from the encounter.
Yeah. Yeah, and then vile discharge damage reduced by 20% on mythic difficulty, and that's the swirly, right?
Yeah, I would have rather they not change the damage here and just make them clearer, easier to see, and you can always see them through the boss. Make them like crazy epilepsy level fucking light up thing that you just can't miss. I would love that so much because I really dislike when they have the visual clarity causes difficulty for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably like melee specific problem, but extremely annoying. I would say. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. I guess they reduce the damage, so you have more leeway to stand in them. But still, I would just prefer a different change here. I want the change that they made to the swirlies on Anduin. That's the change I want pretty much. Like make them fucking crazy pop, and you can never miss them.
I actually think that this change is good. They should have additionally made it easier to see if that's a problem, but sometimes there are really awkward overlaps with egg breaks and the swirlies. And you're put in the position where there's no way you can move out of the eggs. And even attempting to time it is just way too risky for the raid, right? Like you have to press a defensive and stand still if you have a defensive.
Yeah.
So in that specific regard, I think it's good because I've lived when there's only 2 swirlies with a defensive, but when there's 3, I've barely died. And you're sort of put in a position where you literally have no play. Like you can try and get an external or something, but you're already DR'd, so if there are randomly 4 swirlies around the egg, you're just eating it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like, you go in, you pop Blade Storm, you stand under the boss, and you're hitting all the ads, and then you're just hoping that there's no swirly that you can't see because it's under the boss. And that part just doesn't really change. And it's even more awkward, honestly. Again, why is everything so awkward for Warrior? But you can't health pot or health stone in Blade Storm. So when you get hit by one, you can't top yourself up unless you're about to cancel your Blade Storm when your entire job on the fight is to do that Blade Storm to kill those ads, So I don't know, extremely awkward. This is one I'm kind of tilted at. Of course, good that they reduce the damage, but I would really have liked to see some other change there, or even some acknowledgement from them that they're not good enough visibly in melee. But yeah,
maybe this just remains because it's only half the raid being like really affected by the visual clarity.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
But all in all, I feel like it's great that they nerfed the fight, but the way they nerfed it is very random, where it's just a massive health reduction. 15% is a lot. And then they nerf the damage you take, but they indirectly make it so you can play more healers. They do some things to the parasite that doesn't seem relevant. And I don't know, you're still required to have a blood decay and several knocks, and I don't know, it seems very strange. I would have liked to see some sort of nerf that made it less comp restrictive, I guess.
Yeah, that I'm surprised as well that they didn't do. And yeah, I think the nerf that sticks out the most is just the health nerf. It's just so much. Yeah. I mean, so for us, like as I mentioned before, like going into the raid where we killed it, we had the boss at best 21%, and then we had a wipe at just under 17%, and then we killed it. So obviously, like, and that wasn't like a perfect pull or anything. Like as I said before, I died to melee, like on fight, was rest and whatever, and we had like a big shit show on the end, everyone dying in the middle because that was the first time we ever got there. But I feel like if we can now, without having done like the degen, raise the world first things, if we can have enough damage to basically kill it like on the first try where we get to the end, if that makes sense. Yeah. Then, and also this is like before any of the like buffs that you like, the ICC style buffs you'll get in the raid, and this was only the second week of Mythic, so people are gonna get like 15 more item levels than this in the end, right? Than what we have now. I just feel like the boss is just gonna melt. Like there's gonna be nothing left of that boss. Like if someone comes and progresses that in 2 months, it's gonna be like a 4-minute boss or something. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, you're never seeing the third pie slice in farm.
Yeah, no way. I mean, so
good change for farm.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just super surprised that they nerfed the HP so much, because I don't think it was needed, and I think that's obviously the part as well that would automatically get nerfed by gear anyway. So
yeah,
weird change, but it is what it is.
But your guild got an entire day on Kuvesa then.
Yeah, 1.5 actually, because we killed it pretty quickly on the raid before.
Okay, so how was? I know you were benched, but how did the fight seem?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it seemed pretty. Pretty fun. It was a bit sad to miss out, but I'll be away with work on the Monday and Wednesday a week from now. So I guess at least before the nerf, that would have been probably the suspected kill time of this boss. And then honestly, I probably didn't play the best on Broodtwister anyway, so maybe it was just because I suck. But regardless of the reason, but yeah, I was a bit sad to not play it, because it did seem pretty cool, honestly. The boss, I would say. I feel like or maybe I should say before, just like how it went against, I guess. So they managed to do 84 pulls on the boss. Best pull 33.5%, and that was reaching the enrage on the end of the boss. So obviously, like, a lot of people were dead and everything, but they saw the entire fight pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it seemed pretty cool. The thing is that I was like, when we spoke about it initially, like back on the Heroic Week episode, like 2 weeks ago, I was under the impression that there was going to be some complications of how to think about where to go with your different sort of how you would play the masks on the bosses, right?
Yeah.
Or on the shadows. But there isn't. Everything is static for everyone in the raid except for the tank.
Yeah.
So
that's a great that's the echo strategy, right? Where you do the circle or the world mark charges first, and then you do it through the boss.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So you basically say, like, if you're charged by, I mean, obviously first you place them out, and then you get charged by one, and then you just go 2 steps clockwise and you stand on that.
Yeah.
Charge through that, and then after that you just go straight through the boss, and then it just repeats for the entire fight. So you just have...
So basically, because of geometry and big brain, you can make it so only the tank or tanks have to know the mechanic exists, and everyone else just knows where to go.
Exactly, yeah. You just basically just have, like, you go to this mark, you go to this mark, and that's it.
Yeah, that surprised me. I didn't realize that you could just auto-solve it by strategy, but that's not how Liquid played the fight. They sort of played it where you had to know if you're going to go through or not. I'm not quite sure if it was a weak aura, or I'm guessing it was, or some soft assignment to specific marks, but then you have to some extent, play the mechanic.
Yeah, I think the echo strat is way smarter, or like way...
It's easier.
It's easier because you're only putting everything on one person to learn the pattern or everything, rather than everyone having to think about it. Not that stopped my guild from dying and having our raid leader go almost crazy about people not understanding where to stand and everything, but I can only imagine if people actually had to also figure out things dynamically on the spot. Now it was really like almost hard-coded what they had to do, and still there was some issues. So yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It looks like a pretty cool fight. Like, I think at least from a melee perspective, I mean, it's just like you have some mechanic around out with that, but otherwise it's just like a blaster kind of like patchwork style fight, right? You just come in, you're dodging some lines and some shit, and you're just blasting like pretty much full uptime, right? So that's pretty cool from a melee perspective. So I'm a little bit sad to not get to play that in progress. And I think actually my whole guild is pretty sad to see that they nerfed this boss as well so much, like so much. Which I think was a little bit I don't know. I don't feel. I feel like they hurt a lot of guilds by doing this, right? Couldn't they have waited like for those guilds that have already killed Broodtwister now? Couldn't they have had a few more weeks to kill, or at least a week or two or whatever, before they did anything to Kaivessa? Because the guilds that are now gonna only be able to kill ovi'nax because of the nerf, it's not like they're gonna go in and one-shot it, right?
No. Well, I think you're right, but they're not affecting so many guilds, so it's probably not even an inconvenience to them to affect your guild, right?
Yeah, no, of
I
course.
feel like we benefit. We that did not kill ovi'nax but probably should have benefits a lot from both these nerfs versus you guys who killed ovi'nax and started progressing Kivessa, because I don't think there will be any time discrepancy in the time we kill ovi'nax. It would just be the first pull our guild has when we're playing the game, and it will die. And it can be the first pull or it can be the 10th pull, but I'd be surprised if it was anything else, right?
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
your progress on Kivessa will still be ahead of ours, but I think we will make up more time by these changes than if not, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean,
Because
I guess
there was an interesting thing we talked about that did not happen now indirectly, right? Because you had the choice to go to either Kivessa or ovi'nax. So presumably, if these changes did not happen, would your guild have gone to Kivessa, Vantus, and not even pulled ovi'nax?
I don't know. Maybe I thought about that a lot. I even thought if I should bring that up, but since the nerfs came in, there seemed like to be no point because obviously ovi'nax now is easy reclear with no Vantus.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think that would have definitely not been a bad call.
Yeah, because then you're in a sort of a situation where you deem that losing the Vantus, you've not gained as much gear as losing the Vantus would have given you, so to say.
Yeah.
And rather than killing ovi'nax purely for the drops, you could hard commit, like instead of killing ovi'nax purely for gear, you could hard commit to being able to kill Kivessa that reset with an unnerfed version, and that would have slingshot you so far ahead of us that failed like our weekly requirement of last reset or this reset.
Yeah, but
So
actually, now that I think
it's a
about
shame.
it, I mean, wouldn't yeah, because because we could probably have. I think given that I think because I think we had a lot of damage extra on the fight, if that makes sense. Given that we killed it like the first time we got there on the end, we never had any of those close kind of pulls. So I think if anything, we could probably have killed it like without too much trouble. Like, we could probably have killed it without Vantus on the like next week. Whereas I assume you would have had to Vantus again, right? If you had that many close pulls, or was it always like you went in there with a lot of people dead?
I think it was rarely clean. Like, I think it's reasonable to assume that you had more damage than us, but I don't think damage would have been the reason we couldn't kill it without Vantus. But when you add, if it is 3% damage and healing and 1.5% damage reduction, and basically what damage gives you is the ability to play the fight less clean, right? Like it's a big difference having 3% more boss damage and not, especially when you're starting to play in the middle and there's goo everywhere and you have to dodge swirlies and pre-move, and just one range not pre-moving and dying with the root basically wipes the raid. Avoiding that scenario is pivotal, and maybe if you could have avoided that and we couldn't by like 1%, that could be plausible. But what's the benefit of killing ovi'nax again? Like, why wouldn't you just smash Kivessa and then make a judgment call on the last day of reset?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you still get gear, right? I mean, it drops some good stuff. I don't know if it drops. I don't remember if that has any special trinkets or anything, but at least it has like it has a pretty spicy ring, I think, if you like mastery. And it has tier and stuff, so there's definitely some benefit to killing it, but yeah, it's
Yeah, but
probably not super impactful.
It feels kind of uncertain how fast you will kill it, doesn't it? Like, it's not a boss where, oh yeah, we've killed it once, it's just gonna fall next time.
I think it felt pretty. The thing is, I think it felt pretty easy for us because when we came in on Sunday, I think we kill it in like, what is this like? It's less than. We killed it in 10 pulls when we came in on Sunday, I think, or maybe less. So, and that was like after we did the trash farm. So I think with even more gear, I don't know if we would have been super scared of it. I can't tell, and obviously wouldn't have been my decision anyway. And I guess now we'll never know with these changes. But yeah, I don't know. It would have been more interesting for sure, because now there's no decision, right? Now you just go Broodtwister and then you just go Kavesa after. But obviously with the other one, that would have been an interesting decision. So a bit unfortunate to not get to see that decision play out.
Yeah, I was super psyched about potentially having guilds doing that and see how it worked, because you don't often get the situation with the tuning of the bosses and the pathing and everything to make this possible, because as far as I know, you've never done this. And maybe it wouldn't have been worth. I guess it depends on how confident you are on re-killing the boss.
Yeah.
But if there's some degree of uncertainty, if you had a fluke pull or if it feels easily rekillable, it would be for the first time in a while, it would be a very sound decision to just say, fuck it, let's just go hit Kuvesa with Vantus and see what happens in 2 raids.
Yeah, that could have definitely been the play. Yeah, a bit sad that didn't play out, because that would have just been interesting, and I think a lot of guilds would have been caught in that exact decision as well. So, or not a lot. That's not correct, but like quite a few guilds to where it would actually been interesting to see what would have happened. Because our old guild, we actually had similar kind of things happen to where it actually made a big difference which boss you ended up vantusing and if you ended up extending or all of these things in the past. But I feel like now there will be no such decision here. It will just be an obvious decision for everyone to just re-clear again.
Yeah. But regarding the Kuvesa nerfs, I feel like there was some nerfs that had to be done, especially, or should have been done in my opinion, is that they should have removed the ability to one tank, which they did.
Yep.
They should have compensated the boss HP, which shouldn't be that hard if you just take some sort of average DPS, average of 1 DPS and remove that health. You could remove it like round up or something, doesn't really matter. And then they did a bug fix with some immunities of the assassination at Twilight Massacre. Those 3 changes makes a lot of sense as a bare minimum, but reducing all the damage, it's very difficult to say how big of an effect it has when we haven't actually played the fight.
Yeah, I think yeah, that seemed a bit. It seems like a lot when you look at how many things they nerfed. They nerfed like pretty much they nerfed the damage of the fight by like 15% on average or something, right? They nerfed like pretty much every ability by between 15 and 20 15 to 25%, I guess. All the different damage. So that's a lot.
And then health by 10% is also a lot, where I don't know what the average damage of a 1 DPS would be, but it's not 10% of the boss's health. So
yeah, and it's also
it seems
one
like overcorrected.
It's not also the damage of 1 DPS, right? It's the damage of 1 DPS versus like minus that of a tank, right? It's a diff versus So I think 5% would have been enough, especially given that you will get gear, right? And a lot of guilds, or at least the guilds that killed. I mean, yeah, okay, fair. So even with the Broodtwister nerf considered as well, everyone will Vantus this boss now, okay, Vesa, right? Because there's no point if you're like, of course, there's some like world rank 300 guild or whatever that's gonna Vantus Broodtwister, but they would never have killed Kavesa anyway. It's not gonna take weeks for them before they kill that anyway, so it doesn't matter for them. But for any guild that could potentially have a chance to kill Kavesa this week, they would never even think about Vantusing a Broodtwister now.
No.
So
and I feel like Kuvesa is also probably one of the highest value Vantus fights ever, where it's just a pure DPS and HPS check, right? Damage matters, healing matters, damage taken matters a lot. You also indirectly have 10% less health, since you just... I guess you can survive the assassination by some means, but effectively if you go below 10, you're dead, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really high value Vantus boss, and they seem to have reduced the damage taken a lot. And I guess we'll see if we have problem with the damage post nerf. I would assume maybe it could seem reasonable, but the 30 or so guilds that have actually pulled Kivesa, and maybe even less have made some meaningful progress, for them it will feel bad. For you guys, it should feel bad that they've nerfed it if you're at 33% after a day and a half, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I think if I saw correctly in our healing channel, I think our healer said that it was one of the hardest healing fights like they've ever played and such and stuff. So I mean, it's probably not unreasonable to nerf it. It just seems like a lot, right? Couldn't they just
Yeah,
nerf everything with like 5 to 10%? Would have been better maybe than 15 to 25.
I feel like it's a really interesting healing fight if you want to discuss that a bit.
Yeah.
Because you're put in a sort of weird situation where you have so distinctly different roles on the fight. So if we break it down, you play the up phase. I'm just going to call it P1. When you play P1, you have ray damage in the form of the portals. You have single target damage on people that are getting hit by the portal and the charges. You have some single target damage by some other dot, I believe, that goes out. You have lines and whatever. But effectively, you need super strong spot healing, externals and offensives for the single player debuffs, for single target debuffs. And you need really strong AoE healing for the regular portal pull-in. That's also very stacked healing, which is kind of relevant. And then you enter the intermission, and the entire thing is flipped, where you need super high spread AoE healing, and you need some spot healing as well, but that's also, like, you can't reach perfectly over one side to the other, especially from range to range. Like, mages typically play far out, and I don't think you would reach him from the other side. And then it repeats. But in reality, what people have done is you have the 2 Preservation Evokers basically solo handling all the AoE healing, and then the Holy Priest solo healing the debuffs, and then the Resto Shaman not solo healing, but basically solo healing the intermission. And it's not based on sort of, it seems to be based on what your class is good at doing, and since Preservation Evoker is so good, you have to sort of fit in a Resto Shaman to weigh up for the limitation of the Preservation Evoker, since you cannot, like, I will not heal at all basically in the intermission, and people will be dying. But there's no way I'm gonna have the resources, the cooldowns, the mana to heal in both phases. So I'm gonna, probably for the first time ever, like, actually do next to no healing. I'll do the bare effective required healing and try and help with spot healing. But I'll basically AFK, and I think the rest of Shaman will do the same thing in the normal phase. He will see the perfect chain heal opportunity. Like, he can get 0 overhealing and help out, but he shouldn't. He should just AFK, I guess.
So, okay, but so do you think that this, like, meta comp then, or whatever you want to call it, do you think that that is the best possible healing comp for this boss, or do you think that there's something else that would match up better with these requirements that you have with like this different sort of aspects of healing, or whatever you want to call it?
I think there's some flexibility depending on how much damage you take, but you need at least one healer that can spend resources and time on AoE healing stacked. You need one healer that's gonna be another healer because of you don't have infinite resources, that needs to be able to handle the AoE healing that's spread in the intermission. And you're gonna need one healer that's really able to spot heal random specific people with debuffs and not letting them drop. And then I guess the third healer could be sort of flex. So I would guess that Press and Holy Priest are very set. Like, I don't think there's a better AoE healer for a stack purpose. I don't think there's a better spot healer for several debuffed players. Maybe something else is decent in the intermission than a Resto Shaman. Maybe a Mistweaver or something could do it. A third Press could probably do it, but not as effective since you're so spread. We're going to be playing Press, Holy Paladin, Resto Shaman, and Press. So we're not going to play the full meta comp, but some people are playing with only one Press on the fight anyway. I think one of the Raise the Wall Forest guilds did it.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know exactly how to explain it. I think I'm rambling a bit, but it's very rare that the healing is being down in such a specific manner where like you do stacked AoE healing, you do single target healing, you do spread AoE healing. And since there's so much damage and limited resources, you sort of are incentivized not to help each other out because you would just not be able to heal later in the fight, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's escalated by Resto Shamans not having the greatest time with mana, so they probably can't afford in any sense, but it's a bit different. And it's kind of fun to see because usually it's just the healer that's the best generically, which is press, but then you build it around press and it becomes extremely specific.
Yeah, we actually had like a kind of a weird way. So they started with like Holy Paladin, Press, Holy Priest, and Resto Shaman. But then there was a bunch of different issues, and then we're like, okay, while we learn this, should we just add another healer? So then our Shadow Priest also went Holy. And then towards the end, and actually on the best pull, on that 33% pull that went all the way to the end, the Holy Paladin went tank. And so there were 2 tanks and just 4 healers, which was then 2 Holy Priests and 1 Resto Shaman, 1 Press Evoker. Which I guess that's not what we're gonna play now, because that guy is actually a healer in generally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the way, or what was found out, was just that Holy Paladin heals so little on that fight, like almost nothing. I think half of the other healers or something. So I don't know if we're gonna end up fielding a Holy Paladin or not.
Yeah, I haven't played the fight and looked specifically into Holy Paladin, but I do think by design Holy Paladin should be quite decent at healing in the up phase. Like he's not going to be a preservation evoker, but no one is. So I would assume that the Holy Paladin would try and substitute for the second press. And the press evokers are just covering each other, right? Like a press can quite decently have a lot of healing for every portal suck in. But if you're 2, you can have a lot more healing on everyone, right?
Yeah.
On every set. So we'll see how it pans out. But as far as I can see, Holy Paladin should be a good substitute for it, because I don't think... I'm a bit unsure about Preservation Evoker, but... I mean, I'm a bit unsure about Mistweaver, but other than that, I think it makes sense to have a Holy Paladin. And you get a sack as well. So another part of the fight that we've already mapped out is, like, we're gonna use a rescue from each Evoker on each circle set, so the time you spawn the first set in each phase where you spawn the portal, or the clone that spawns the portal. And you have 5 markers or 5 circles, so you cover as many as you can with rescues. And then you have to set up a sort of logic. What happens if I get the circle? Who do I rescue then? And then you have to assign the tankiest range players to be on the one where you don't have an external. And it becomes very complicated real quick with the healing and survivability of the fight. So I think even though the Mythic mechanic is quite easy, or won't be a massive difference in mechanics from Heroic to Mythic, I think it's a really well-designed fight that requires very specific things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good that they just... I mean, yeah. I think, like, as long as they fixed it... The only thing that was sort of felt wrong about the fight was the one tanking thing, right? That didn't feel good. So happy that they fixed that, but other than that, yeah, it seems like a really well-designed sort of fight. So yeah, I'm going to be sad to miss it, but I'll actually be kind of excited to play it in Farm, though. That'll be fun.
Yeah, but then I'll have some insider info that you want then next episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll still only have seen it from... I mean, unless something weird happens, like someone can't come or whatever. But other than that, yeah, I'll only have the Discord stream information. So yeah, so definitely looking forward to your insight next week. Hopefully you've gotten some good pulls in on it by the time we record the next episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be dead for sure.
Nice. That's.
Do you think it's plausible to kill? Like, what do you think a fresh pull count could be? Since we're gonna start from 0 next reset, presuming we're gonna kill ovi'nax. What's your best guess? Since you did 80 pulls 84. And got 33.
Yeah, but
do you think it's killable in 100 pulls?
Well, okay. So let me just, before I say that, let me just say that 33% pull was very much an outlier.
Okay.
The best pull prior to that was like 55 or something.
Yeah, but the fight repeats itself exactly. Like it's identical cycling phases until you get to the last night or whatever it's called, the final night.
Yeah, you get like the ramping when you hit the boss with 2 charges in the last phase or whatever, right? It gets permanent damage increase, but it doesn't change how you play the fight. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a good guild from like fresh count can do it in 100, but I think maybe that's still. I'm gonna still. I don't think. Yeah, I think maybe a little bit more than 100 still. I think it's a pretty hard fight probably, even with the nerfs. So
Like 150.
yeah, I think somewhere like good guild maybe 100. Like if you do well on like relatively speaking on the fight, then maybe 120 or something, and then still probably closer to 150. I would
Okay.
expect that we probably end up like 150 or something as well. Probably. Maybe not 150. I don't know, something like that.
How many raids do you guys have next reset?
Yeah, so now we only have 3. So obviously we had the first 2. Now we had 4 raids, but now we're not gonna have that anymore. So it's only gonna be the 3. So we're gonna raid Wednesday and Sunday and Monday for the rest of the tier. So that will allow you guys to catch up a bit since you'll be raiding 4 for the entirety.
Yeah. Maybe that's next reset could be a very dramatic ending for you guys, where I could assume that you would have killed it if you had a 4th day, but maybe it's gonna be hard to kill it on Monday. What's your initial feeling?
Yeah, that could definitely happen. I mean, I'm not sure. The thing is, I'm not sure how much we're gonna. Everyone had to send in like drop demisers for heroic and mythic now. I'm not sure if we're gonna end up doing, because now for the first 2 mythic weeks we've spent the entire Wednesday anyway. I mean, we've only had 3 raids doing mythic, right? We've only done splits on the first raid, and I don't think we're gonna do that many splits now on Wednesday, but I'm not sure. So I don't know. I'm hoping, like, at least it would be nice if we're back on Kaivesa already on Wednesday, or at least cleared up to it, so that we have both Sunday and Monday on Kaivesa. And I think given 2 full days, given the nerfs, given the new gear, everything, I would be a bit surprised, and Vantus as well. I would be surprised if it doesn't die, but who knows. But as long as it dies this reset, I think that's good. And then I guess after that it becomes kind of interesting if it's worth to extend or not, which might be the case that it's time to extend after that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Probably, right? Because otherwise you're gonna be forced to kill Nexus Princess again without Vantus Rune. So I'm probably leaning extend then, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like the last 2 bosses are very or especially the last boss, but they seem to be more mechanically challenging. Like Silken Court didn't seem to have a tough number tuning, and they had to pump out some real numbers to kill Queen Ansurak. But I'm guessing extend would be the right play, since you're still gonna have a lot better gear than the Razorwolf first kills by extending.
Yeah. And I mean, even Echo had like 4 hours of reprog on Nexus Princess, right, on their second week. So
yeah,
that doesn't bode well for a guild that is definitely not as good as Echo.
But then this might be the last time we re-clear then.
It might be, yeah. I'm
not sure if we're gonna. I don't know our split situation either. You have. I would assume we're sort of even on the odds of killing Kivesa, since we're gonna have an extra day. But you have an extra day of progress, a bit more, but roughly speaking.
Yeah.
If we're not gonna waste a day by doing full set of splits on Wednesday, I would assume we could kill it. I wouldn't be certain in any direction, but it seems like it could be killable with the nerf.
Yeah, for sure.
Playing 2 tanks, I'm guessing, is easier than playing 1 tank as well. I haven't been paying too much attention to it, but it seems difficult to die at the right time and being able to be rest, and then you have to place the portal in the right. Have you seen if it's Arms Warrior tanking the boss for a second with Die by the Sword?
I don't know if we did the Arms Warrior or not. Actually, I didn't hear if they said that. I know there was some talk of who can take the boss here and there or whatever, but I mean, he dies way too often for like it's for the cooldown to be ready every time at least. So I'm not really sure how that
So
worked
just
out.
having the 2 tanks should reduce the wipe count at least, right?
Yeah. It should definitely be
Yeah.
easier. I mean,
Yeah,
we
so
played
maybe
it with
twice
a
next
blood
reset.
DK as well, which I guess none of the Race to World First guilds did.
With or without a blood decay?
And we played it with blood DK.
Yeah.
They played it with. I think Liquid had a
They had a
druid, right?
guardian.
They had a guardian,
Yeah.
yeah. And Echo had a monk, or was it Method
Yeah.
that had a monk?
Echo had monk. I
Yeah,
don't know what method had.
yeah. But I guess it doesn't really matter so much. It's not. There's nothing special about the class for what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. It somehow feels like it's gonna be a long tier, but it also seems very strange that you could plausibly extend next reset, since ovi'nax has seemed like such a wall, and Kivessa up until these nerfs. The pace of the rage is heavily shifted, right?
Yeah. I mean, now I guess because of these nerfs, it might be true for the first time this tier that Court is actually the second hardest boss. Because previously it wasn't, right? It was the fourth hardest boss.
Yeah.
But now it's probably going to be harder. Definitely going to be harder than Broodtwister. Maybe going to be harder than Nexus Princess.
Yeah. Yeah, Silken Court is probably easier for the really coordinated guilds, but we're probably gonna run about like headless chickens for a bit, won't we, with the with the debuff?
Probably.
So for them, maybe Kivessa is still maybe not. Yeah, we'll see. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, just quickly wanted to see if you wanted to guess, like, when do you think we're gonna be done with the raid? Like, how long do you think the entire tier will take at this point? Now that we're sort of nearing the end, but obviously still have the hardest parts left.
Let's do some napkin math. Let's say we kill Kivessa on Monday,
Right.
and let's say we kill Silken Court on. We extend. We take 2-3 raids to kill Silken Court. We take 5. Maybe around the 23rd October on the reset. I think we're killing the last boss.
Okay, you think. Okay, so you think you will kill the boss on the 23rd?
What do you think?
I don't think. I don't think that's. I'm a little bit suspect on that. My guess was that I thought that at least we could kill it in October. But I think the 23rd might be a tad spicy, but maybe not. But if you say 23rd, I'm gonna stretch it a little bit and say the 27th then maybe, or the 28th maybe. I guess 28th we don't even. Oh yeah, yeah. I guess either of those could work. But yeah, I think maybe a little bit later than that. But yeah, I think definitely October should be possible.
It seems like it would swing depending on if and how much in that case Queen Anne's would be touched. Because the Race to World First guilds having that many wipes is not super common, right?
Yeah, but that boss also gets so unbelievably nerfed by gear, right? I mean, you can push so far in phase 1 and skip so much of phase 3 if you have more. And you can probably bloodlust on pull as well, because you're not gonna, if with gear and with the stacking ICC style buff that you're gonna get, if you don't need, like if you don't need the bloodlust for like healing and living or whatever, or clearing out the ads or whatever it is you use it for in last phase, you might just pop it with everyone's cooldown on pull, right?
Yeah, but then I think the 23rd is gonna be. Then I think you're overshooting a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess we'll see.
But so then you think that 3 weeks from now, the boss will die. Flat 3 weeks now from today, or from tomorrow even, he will die.
Mm,
And I mean, to be
yeah,
fair,
maybe I'm
again, your
undershooting a bit.
your guild has 4 bosses left.
Yeah,
I mean, 3 basically, but you know.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's possible. We raid 4 times a week. By end of this reset, on Monday the 7th, I'm just gonna say Kvesa is roughly dead.
Yeah.
Then we extend. Then we play Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, and then Silken Court dies on the 13th or 14th. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the 5th raid on the last boss it dies. If that's a rough timeline, then it will die the week of the 23rd at least.
Okay. So you're gonna kill Queen Anzarak, would say 5 raids. And Echo and Liquid both had 400 plus pulls on it. Yeah, I mean, it depends how much, if they do anything and how much, when that buff even comes in. I don't know. It's supposed to come soon, I think. I think it was said 4th week of the raid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be soon. Yeah, interesting. By the way, one last thing I wanted to say as well. Do you know, or did you see the thing Echo was doing to min-max damage on the end of Anzarak?
No.
It was kind of a blast from the past, you could say. It was a long time since I've seen anyone do this, but they offset Bloodlust within the group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Scripe basically said, like, okay, who here feels that the Bloodlust in the last phase is not good for you? And then, like, 2 or 3 people like, me, I'm not doing any damage in the Bloodlust. And then from that pull on, whenever they rest everyone else took the rest, they popped Bloodlust, those last 2 or 3 people took the rest, and then they Bloodlusted on pull for them, and then that meant that since they Bloodlust on like 8:30 in the fight, they had to wait 1.5 minutes each pull, so that the cooldown on Sated went down long enough.
Okay. No, I missed that. That's when was the last time you did it? Wasn't it Argus?
I can't remember. I know it's been a few years for sure. Like, it's been, I know we've done this stuff in the past, but I can't remember when the last time was. But it might have been Argus. But wasn't Argus so long that you could Bloodlust on the pull? Because, like, for the longest time, like, end bosses often have had double Bloodlust, right? Where you Bloodlust pull and then you get one more on the end. But now, in more recent years, there hasn't been the case, since Bloodlust has been kind of like, it's been like you get only one, and so then you could have done this. But prior to that, prior to Dragonflight or whenever they started it, I guess Sark really was the first boss that was really short, right? So prior to Sarkareth, you generally just pressed it on pull so you got it again. But then after that, you just picked a Bloodlust point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I just have some vague memory of doing it in Legion. I don't know why.
Yeah, it might very well be in Legion that was the last time. I just thought it was interesting. I was when they did it, I was like, "Oh my god, this again! It's in such a long time. I almost forgot you could do this." I was so surprised when he brought it up. I like it's not something that it would even cross my mind anymore. It's been such a long time since that tech was used, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I missed it. I stopped watching because I woke up on a day and then Liquid had just won, right?
Yeah, same. That was unfortunate.
And then I feel like the watching part of the race was over.
Yeah. Did you see the THD thing that everyone was talking about?
The gate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also saw a clip of Dryny, I think, was already there on a horse. So basically THG just sniped the play of the game.
I don't know. I mean, I saw Max did like more of a breakdown of it, and like he looked at the timer, and I think like he picked it up on like 0.0 seconds until raid explosion. So I don't know. I don't know. I saw a lot of those comments on both sides saying like, Dryny was on his way there, and other people saying Dryny wouldn't have made it because he picked it up on the last fucking second that it's possible to pick it up before it exploded. So I'm not sure.
What does the portal explode? Isn't it just you need to get it in before the line touches it?
I think there's a point where you would have to pick it up. Or at least that's how I understood it when Max was showing it, because he was showing a bar of like, this is the timer. If this timer goes down, it's over. And then he picked it up
Oh,
just
okay.
on the end. So there's some reason why.
Yeah.
It honestly, it might have been that the outer ring would have hit it on the way in or something. I don't know. It could have been
Okay.
that also, but I don't think so because there was a timer for it. So I think that they explode on their own after a while or something. Not 100% on that.
Hey, it was a cool play nonetheless.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but it felt like a little bit. I mean, maybe I just didn't really understand like the extent of what he did, but like it felt like he just turned on his mobility, ran and got it.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
Like it didn't. I mean, it didn't seem too different from if I would have a heroic leapt on it, right, and just taken it. I mean, it's a bit harder to do the gate, but like it just didn't. I feel like the mechanical skill of doing what it did was very low. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
crazy mechanically skilled. I think the whole thing of having the presence of mind to see that while the boss is on 4% and you're probably like focused on pumping like fucking crazy and just killing the boss when you know it's super tight, and then realizing it's there, immediately moving, throwing everything to get it and pick it up. I mean, that sort of presence of mind thing I think was pretty good. But I think mechanically just picking it up the way he did wasn't super. There was nothing special about that. He just used his mobility and then he just did the mechanic, which isn't a hard mechanic per se.
Yeah, it probably just looks cooler to non-Warlock players.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, still obviously like Giga Gamer player, whatever. But I think the more like realizing what had to be done and seeing it in time, whatever, all of this stuff was more impressive
for
than the
sure.
actual mechanical play.
But it wouldn't look as cool if you just leapt to it.
Yeah, exactly. For sure, it wouldn't. Or if you just if you just walked to it or horsed it or whatever, like anything you would have done, it wouldn't have been as cool. Just the gate, because it's a little bit weird. Like you have to put a cast and you have to click the gate, and I think he had Burning Rush up, and he had to do this whole sequence of things.
Yeah, and it's very relatable to click a gate, but normally you're not the one who puts it out, right? So it looks so flashy.
Yeah, exactly.
But all in all, it seemed like Liquid had a really good tier, or Echo had a really poor tier. It's hard to know, but
yeah, it felt like Liquid was very dominant for sure. Like there was no way they weren't gonna win. I feel like they were very far ahead.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was explaining the situation to my girlfriend of the time difference, and it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And I was sort of hoping it would finally end on one of the really bad times, right?
Oh, so that they would fix it in the like a global release in the future, or
yeah, I just want to see what they would do. Like if they killed it directly after reset, or maybe they killed it on the same time. You know, like maybe they like within 10 minutes of each other, or an hour, or something, and just hell would break loose, right?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean,
Because
the reset thing is probably worse than they killed it. Like if they kill it at the same time, like if Echo was mid pull when Liquid killed it, and then they killed it on that same pull,
yeah,
that wouldn't have changed that much, right?
well, I think it would have sparked an actual conversation about, okay, does the time difference matters here? Yeah, for sure, you know. But then it becomes less obvious the longer the time.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly becomes less obvious, and especially given that, to be fair, NA had kind of bad, like, long maintenances every week, which EU didn't really have. So that took away some of their time, probably took away a lot of the time advantage. And then also the whole thing of, it isn't actually that big of an advantage to be pulling the boss before the other guild when the other guild can watch you. I mean, of course, it's an advantage to be there before, but this whole thing of, like, Liquid has already seen, or Echo has already seen Liquid do all the bosses and stuff, right? That takes away a bit of it as well. So it's a bit hard to quantify. But obviously, all of these things would go away if they just made a global release for the raid.
Yeah, but I don't think it would become a real discussion until it was obvious that it was a problem. The most obvious one would be like even before the EU servers are up, right? But there is some time, let's say within a minute of each other, where it clearly has a difference, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that would have to happen earlier in the week. Like when it's this late, I'm not sure if that would have been such a big deal either. It would have been like crazy, like everyone would be, oh my god, it's such a tight race or whatever. But I don't know if that would have been the discussion that was sparked from that. I'm not sure about that, honestly.
I would have guessed so, but I don't know. I don't know.
And I think, I mean, I don't know, but I think that it would definitely have been a much bigger thing if Liquid woke up and instantly killed the boss on the reset before EU servers were up for the reset, you know. That I think would have been that I think is the worst possible way that it can end. Is that the one reset gives Liquid the kill.
Yeah, for sure. And the other ways around where like the race just ends in like 2 days wouldn't be satisfying in any way either, because then it's just no content, you know?
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping for the reset kill, just to see what happens. Like that would also be interesting to see the effects.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Did you have anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah. So how do you end a podcast?